The mountain did not forgive mistakes. It rose like a broken wall of stone and shadow, jagged cliffs cutting into the sky, narrow ledges stacked like the teeth of a giant saw. Wind screamed through the ravines, carrying dust, ash, and the distant echo of gunfire. Night clung to everything, thick and suffocating, broken only by the pale wash of moonlight and the blinking green of tactical optics. She lay pressed against the rock, blood soaking into her sleeve, breath shallow and controlled. Pain flared with every movement, sharp and electric, but she forced it down, burying it beneath years of training and discipline. Her name was Captain Elena Ward, and she was surrounded. Below her position, enemy fighters moved like ants across the slope, their murmured voices drifting upward in a language she understood just well enough to know how close she was to being found. Above her, the cliff face rose sheer and merciless, smooth stone offering no handholds, no escape. To her left, a narrow ravine choked with darkness. To her right, a steep drop that would end her story in a heartbeat. There was no way up. Her radio crackled softly in her ear, the sound barely audible over the wind. Valkyrie. Valkyrie, this is Shadow Actual. Come in. She closed her eyes for half a second, then keyed the mic with fingers slick with blood. Shadow Actual, she whispered. I read you. Relief washed through the line. Tight and controlled. Captain Ward, the voice said. We lost your signal 15 minutes ago. Sitrep. She swallowed, tasting iron. Ambush at Grid Echo 7, she said. My team is down. I am wounded. Enemy strength, multiple squads. I'm pinned against the cliff. There was a pause. Not long, but long enough for her to recognize what it meant. The SEAL commander was calculating odds. She imagined him crouched somewhere miles away, surrounded by men with rifles and grim faces, staring at a map illuminated by red light. She had worked with him before. Lieutenant Commander James Reaper Holt, calm under fire, ruthless when necessary, not a man easily shaken. How bad is the wound? He asked. Through on the shoulder, she replied. Bleeding controlled. Limited mobility. Another pause. Extraction options? He asked. She looked up at the cliff face, then down into the ravine, then back toward the enemy below. None, she said simply. The silence this time was heavier. The mountains seemed to listen. She shifted slightly, wincing as pain flared. Her rifle lay beside her, scratched and dusty, but functional. She checked the magazine by feel. Low but not empty. A sidearm rested against her thigh. 2 spare mags. 1 grenade. That was it. She had been inserted as an advanced reconnaissance element, tasked with identifying enemy movement along the mountain pass. Quiet mission. In and out. No contact expected. The mountain had other plans than a misjudged ridgeline. A hidden observation post. The first burst of gunfire had come from above, ripping through the night like tearing cloth. Her team had scattered, returning fire, trying to reposition. Then the mortars fell. She remembered shouting orders, dragging one of her men behind cover, feeling the concussion slam into her chest. She remembered the heat, the smoke, the screaming wind, and then she remembered being alone. Shadow Actual, she said, steady despite everything. Recommend you do not attempt rescue. Enemy has high ground. Heavy weapons. The reply came faster than she expected. Negative, Holt said. You're not dying on my mountain. She almost smiled. Sir, she said quietly, that mountain does not belong to you. Gunfire cracked below, closer now. The enemy was probing, moving carefully, confident in their advantage. They knew someone was up here. They just didn't know exactly where. Yet, her radio crackled again. Captain Ward, Holt said. Hold position. We're moving. She closed her eyes, pressed her forehead briefly against the cold stone. Understood, she said. I'll make it expensive. As the enemy advanced, she adjusted her position by inches, becoming part of the rock itself. She had learned long ago that survival in places like this wasn't about strength or speed. It was about patience that a shadow moved near the ravine edge. She raised her rifle, breath slowing, heartbeat settling into a familiar rhythm. Pain faded into the background, reduced to information. The shot cracked the night. The shadow fell. Shouts erupted below. Confusion. Orders barked. Gunfire sprayed the rocks near her position, sparks flying as rounds struck stone. She rolled, barely in time, feeling a bullet tear through the air where her head had been. She fired again. And again. She did not stay in one place. She shifted after every shot, crawling, sliding, dragging herself across unforgiving rock. Blood left a dark trail behind her, but she ignored it. Minutes stretched like hours. Her radio came alive again. Valkyrie, this is Shadow, actual. We're 5 mics out from Overwatch. Keep them busy. She laughed softly, breathless. That was the plan, she said. Below her, the enemy hesitated. They had lost men. They couldn't see her clearly. They knew she was wounded, but they also knew she was dangerous. And that made them cautious. A flare shot into the sky, bathing the mountainside in harsh white light. She froze, pressed flat, willing herself invisible. The flare burned, then died. Movement surged again as a round struck near her shoulder, pain exploding as stone fragments cut into her skin. She bit back a cry, forced herself to breathe. Her ammo count dropped. She checked her last magazine. This would not be enough, Shadow actual, she said. Be advised, I'm running low. Copy, Holt replied. His voice was tight now. 2 mics. 2 minutes could be forever. The enemy was closer now. She could hear them clearly. Boots on stone, the scrape of metal, the whispered certainty of men who believed victory was already theirs. .1 climbed too high. She waited until he was fully exposed, then fired. He fell, tumbling down the slope, taking another with him. Angry shouts echoed. Gunfire intensified. The round caught her leg. She screamed despite herself, collapsing against the rock. Pain roared through her body, white-hot and overwhelming. Her vision blurred. She forced herself to stay conscious. She could not die here. Not like this. She dragged herself behind a jagged outcrop, breathing hard, fingers shaking as she swapped magazines. Her hands were slick with blood now, hers and theirs. Her radio crackled. Valkyrie, Holt said urgently. Talk to me. I'm still here, she gasped. Still fighting. Another explosion rocked the slope. Dust filled the air. She coughed, choking. The enemy surged, emboldened by her silence. She pulled the pin on her grenade. Waited. Then threw it. The blast tore through the ravine, echoes thunder rolling through the mountains. Screams followed. Silence. For a heartbeat. Everything stilled. Then she heard it. Footsteps behind her. She twisted, raising her rifle, and froze. That a figure stood just yards away, rifle raised, face partially hidden by a scarf. His eyes widened in surprise. He hadn't expected her to still be alive. Neither had she expected him. They fired at the same time. Her rifle clicked empty. His round slammed into the rock inches from her head. She lunged, ramming into him with every ounce of strength she had left. They crashed to the ground, rolling dangerously close to the edge. Pain screamed through her body as she fought, fingers clawing, teeth bared. She struck him with the butt of her rifle. Once, twice, he went limp. She lay there, gasping, staring at the stars. Her radio crackled one last time. Valkyrie, Holt said, we have eyes on your position. She tried to respond. Darkness closed in. She woke to the sound of rotors. T first. She thought it was a dream. The steady thunder of helicopter blades echoing through the mountains, shaking the air itself. Then cold hands were on her, voices shouting, lights flashing. Captain, Captain, stay with us. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. A face hovered above her, blurred but familiar. Damn it, the voice said. She's alive. She was lifted, pain flaring as her body protested. The world tilted, spun, then steadied as they strapped her into a harness. The cliff face fell away beneath her, the mountain releasing its grip at last. She drifted in and out as they hauled her up, the night air rushing past, the smell of fuel and sweat filling her senses. When she came back fully, she was inside the helicopter, medics working frantically, red lights bathing everything in a surreal glow. Someone knelt beside her. She focused, Lieutenant Commander James Holt, for once. His expression wasn't controlled. It was raw, shocked, almost reverent. "You stubborn, impossible woman," he muttered. She managed a weak smile. Did, did we make it expensive?" she whispered. He barked a short laugh, shaking his head. "You have no idea," he said. "They thought there was an entire platoon up there." Her eyes fluttered closed. "Sir," she said softly. "You said my name earlier." He stilled. "I did," he admitted. "Didn't think you'd hear it." She smiled again, faint but genuine. "Good," she murmured. "Means I scared you." The helicopter roared away from the mountain, carrying her towards safety, towards surgeons and long nights of recovery. Behind them, the mountain returned to silence, keeping its secrets. She survived the surgery. The bullet in her leg had shattered bone. Her shoulder would never be the same. Doctors spoke in careful tones about months of rehabilitation, about limits and possibilities. She listened, then ignored half of it. Recovery was brutal, painful, slow. There were days she questioned whether she would ever return to the field. Nights when the memory of the mountain came back, sharp and unyielding. But she did not quit. Weeks later, she stood in a briefing room, leaning slightly on a cane, facing a group of men who had seen too much war to be impressed easily. Holt stood at the front. He cleared his throat. "Before we begin," he said, "there's something you should know." He turned to her. "I owe my life," he said, voice steady, "and the lives of my men, to Captain Elena Ward." The room was silent. She held off superior enemy forces while wounded and alone, he continued. She denied them the high ground. She gave us time. He paused, and she did it without asking for rescue. Eyes turned toward her. She shifted her weight, uncomfortable with attention. "I just did my job," she said. Holt shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "You did more." From that day on, her name carried weight. Not because of medals, though there were those, but because of the story whispered among operators, passed quietly from one team to another, about a woman wounded and surrounded with no way up, about a mountain that tried to kill her and failed, about the night a SEAL commander said her name in shock, realizing too late that she was far more than anyone had expected. And if you're watching this story on her brave stripes, remember this isn't just a story about war, that it's about resilience, that it's about refusing to disappear. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, subscribe to the channel Her Brave Stripes. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from?